and welcome to Wildly Curious, where the questions are unhinged, the science is real, and honestly, we're just getting started. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy. And...
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. For nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, weird is wonderful. Come join the fuss.
I don't have any nature news.
Dude, I just want to mention the video that I sent to you earlier, but that you didn't have a chance to watch yet.
Oh, yeah, I didn't yet, no.
Okay.
Go ahead and mention it.
So I just got sent a video by a relative about this bird called the... Hold on.
Speaking of birds, though, it is fall migration right now, so turn your lights off at night. Texas has been, like, insane
here it
with
is.
fall migration. Like, the numbers and stuff that we've been seeing down here. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely started, but this is more of, like, raptors are starting to leave first, I think. Songbirds aren't.
Yeah, no, Texas is... If you guys go to, Birdcast?
Yeah, the Atlantic Flyway is not full on yet. You guys are. I saw the middle of the country.
Yeah, we
was,
are
on fire.
Yeah, birdcast.info. You can see the Mississippi, the Central Flyway, where Texas and then straight up is glowing.
Yeah.
Right. Where you guys, the East Coast isn't quite as lit up. So what was the bird called?
So club-winged manakin. You know the mannequins that do the crazy dances that they always show in like bird videos. So the club-winged manakin has this really weird... They all do weird dances, but when it does this dance, it makes this really weird sound. And apparently, it has literally mystified scientists since Charles Darwin because he saw this bird and was like, I don't know how he's doing it because his mouth never opens.
Yeah.
And it makes like this. It's like a hum, like a high-pitched hum. And the frequency is something like 1,500. And so anyway, this ornithologist was like, I am going to discover how this happens. So she took out a high-speed camera and slowed things down. And she saw that when he puts his little wings up and makes this noise, he's actually he's hitting his wings together.
Interesting.
And it's something like, you're going to have to fact check me, people, but it's something, I know the number is 107. I don't know how fast. I think the hummingbird was something like 77 beats per second.
Beats per minute? Yeah, per second. Yeah, per second.
This is 107. So
Holy
it's faster
crap.
than a hummingbird.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
At first they were like, we solved the mystery, but actually no, because then you'd think that the sound would hear some kind of rhythmic.
Yeah.
And even when you put it in a computer model, that is not the case.
Slow it down. Yeah, it's not that. Yeah.
So then they looked at it even closer and they noticed that the feathers on the wings are really unique. And they have one of the feathers is kind of hard and has literally like a hard plate with little ridges, and the feather next to it has scales. And when those wings tap together, it makes these feathers go up and down.
Oh, yeah, like a comb.
Yes, and no bird does that. That's an insect thing. This is the only bird that makes an insect type noise.
Sound. Yeah.
And so since there's 7, it goes down 7, it goes up 7 every time it hits together. 107 times that is 1,500 or like 1,498. So that it perfectly explains how it's making that noise. But it's the first bird ever discovered to be making sound like an insect
like noise. Yeah. That's nuts. Yeah. That's cool.
You got to watch the video because it's so cool to see. It's faster than the eye would ever be able to see. It just raises its wings and you just hear, like, it's like.
Yeah.
Like birds are so weird.
Yeah, right. Like a chorus.
Yeah. Yeah. That just reminds me. I do that every time, like, I open, like, the Dutchman's treasure. Like,
yeah, right. What is the bird? Yeah. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, today's episode, it's a full-length episode. We're going to be talking about how nature uses a self-destruct button, not out of failure, but as a strategy for survival.
I just love this message because I feel this is something that I need to have on a wall. You know what I mean?
Right.
Self-destruct isn't always the end.
It's like the cat hanging off, the kitten hanging off a wire kind of.
It's not failure. It's a strategy for survival, but like desperate eyes. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. That's how I think that's how we all. how we all feel right now with everything going on in the news.
This isn't failure. This is just a strategy for survival.
Yeah, anything that everyone's just trying to do right now is just to get through to the next day, to get through to the next day, to get through to the next day. Just survive. It's just the strategy of survival. So for this episode, we divided it down into 3, 4, 5, 6. I talk about 3 different ones. Laura talks about 3 different ways that this happens in nature.
Yeah, like what does self-destruct actually mean? And what are some ways it uses it?
Yep. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I don't mind going first. So
go for it.
So basically my parameters were some part of the organism or all of it has to die. Some part of the organism has to die, but not all of it, because then it's just dead. And that's not really a survival. Well, kind of, but...
Well, because I talk about how they do
like
just
for the benefit of each other.
Yes.
But that's when it's like, something functioning as a larger organism.
Yes.
Well, so mine is one way that nature uses self-destruct to survive is spore dispersal, which sounds really boring, but it's pretty cool. Quick reminder for anyone who doesn't remember what a spore is. We have talked about it before, but for any of you newbies, it's tiny. It's typically one-celled reproductive unit that brings about a new life form without sexual fusion. So it's just basically a way you pop some of your essence into the ether and it starts a new you. No sex involved. Just
pop some of your essence
into the ether. So we did talk about this when we talked about ferns and fungi, both of which do this. And so one way that spores are dispersed are by passive means, like airflow, like literally just the breeze, rainfall, getting bumped into. But sometimes fungi have to take things into their own mycelium and launch their spores.
This is
I gotta make this as fun as I can. This is about spore dispersal.
So the jokes are just writing themselves, and I'm not gonna say anything. But when you guys just see me laughing, you watch it. Make sure you watch this on video if you're listening to it, because I'm just not gonna say it. I'm just gonna start laughing.
Yeah, and I write these myself. This is not chatbot humor. This is me.
I write these myself.
Take things in their own mycelium. So how do they do it? Typically, in order for a fungal cell to explode, it needs to dehydrate. Okay, like I said, think of mushrooms. They've got spores. They want to disperse themselves. Imagine like a puffball, like we all stepped on as a kid. Sometimes, like I said, passively, it just a strong breeze or the rain hits and it makes it go. But sometimes they want to explode themselves. So they have to dehydrate. As the water evaporates, the cell walls, so imagine a cell and it's got this rigid wall around it. As it dehydrates.
One might say it's hard.
One might say hard. Rigid. Hold on. I'm playing with my window. Okay, there we go. Because I need to be able to see what I'm doing with my hands while I'm reading. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm going to do something crazy.
Yeah.
So as the water evaporates, the cell walls come under tension because the inside is shrinking, but the walls are still the same size. So they're like compressing on themselves. Sometimes this can eventually create a negative pressure situation like I'm talking about, where a vapor-filled bubble is actually like formed inside of the cell.
Okay.
And eventually, one day, the walls can't take it anymore. They crack.
They're just like, I'm done.
They give out. Yeah.
I get it, walls. I get it.
I get it. And because of the structure of the cell, typically they're just made a certain way that something like the top is what's going to break first because maybe it was a little bit thinner structurally. So then when it pops, it pushes when it does that. Okay. It flexes and shoots the spore out. This method is called cavitation, and it can shoot things out at about 0.6 meters per second. All right, for fungi. That's just getting dehydrated.
It's all right for a fungi.
There's 2 other ones I wanted to talk about because there's so many ways spores are dispersed. That was just the dehydration, cavitation, inside out method. I think of it like a poppet.
Yes.
One way that's way more effective is ascospore discharge, which just sounds cool, which can launch spores at 30 meters per second.
Holy
cow.
Now
that's respectable.
Yes, right? Jeez.
It's called
Yeah, the other ones, I mean, like, for a
better
fungi,
than nothing. Like, it just fall out.
Yeah, this is intense. Jeez.
30 meters per second.
This is really launching them.
Yes, yes. It's specifically done by the Ascomycota fungi, which go back and listen to our fungi episode where we broke them into categories.
Yep.
But it's the largest category, and many of them are plant pathogens, meaning they infect plants. So they really want to spread their stuff because they want to infect a lot of plants.
Yeah.
They release multiple spores at once, too. It's not just like, it's just a whole bunch of them. But basically, the spores are located in what's called an ascus. I didn't name it, guys. ASCUS, which is like a pressurized spore gun and just shoots them out. There's also another type of spore gun, but this one is called a pilobus squirt gun because water is involved. Pressure builds inside the little capsule, which is called the sporangiophore, and eventually pops and deliberately aims towards the sun, which I think is kind of cool.
Interesting.
Like, it goes towards the sun, and it shoots 30 to 90,000 spores, 9 meters per second, over 2.5 meters. There's just so many at one time.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
So there are, like I said, a lot more ways that they do this, but not as exciting as those three.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
But why do they bother doing this? What's the survival strategy here? Air has a lot of resistance. Think about when you put your hand out the window and you can, ride the air current there. Because it has so much resistance, if you are tiny, if you are a super tiny, literally single-celled thing, it's a struggle just to get through the air. So you're waiting for a breeze or you're waiting for rainfall, but sometimes that just doesn't happen and you still need to spread. So to combat this, the fungi or the plant like a fern or something, it uses force. And it can distribute further distances. And it tries to do it as hard as it can to combat that air resistance.
Yeah.
So self-destruct as in just that one part of the cell is destructing in order to reproduce.
Yeah. Okay. Well, talking about reproduction then, I have a little bit more of an overview, which I guess I should have gone first. But
that's all right.
So the first way things is struck, like I said, is going to be reproduction. They mate once and then done. So the things that I'm going to talk about is one and done. That's it.
So self-destruct completely.
Yeah.
But for the good of the species.
Yes. Which, again, like if humans worked like that, like a wedding night would be a much bigger deal than like that's it. All right, so why on earth would nature design something so extreme? Because in evolution, survival isn't about you, the individual. Like Laura and I were talking about, it's about your genes. And if sacrificing yourself boosts the chance of your offspring making it, nature's totally fine to throw you under the bus. Which is really
crazy because I feel like humans often forget that's the point of most biology.
Yep.
It is just very unself-centered.
It's the collective whole. It's not the individual. Here's the deal. The self-destruction after reproduction isn't failure. It's strategy, like we were saying, for a few different reasons. First, it maximizes reproductive success. Instead of spreading energy thin, staying alive, and raising babies, some species just dump absolutely everything they've got into one giant reproductive blowout, and then I don't know what else to say.
I don't know.
All energy reserves, hormones, tissues, it's all directed into producing and protecting the offspring as far as protecting the future of them. Second, it eliminates competition. If the parents die, other parents are not around to compete with their own babies or other babies with adults for food, territory, and that means more resources for the next generation. And third, it helps with population stability. Think about like salmon, for some species of salmon. I'll talk about that later. But if every adult kept living after spawning again and again and again, like rivers would be just fin to fin in some cases and things like that. And so kind of keeps the population a little bit more stabilized. So I'm going to break down, that's just kind of like the big picture of the evolutionary trade-offs. And so I'm going to kind of break off into 1, 2, 3, 4 quick like
what does this look like?
Of those ones. So the first one, produce once, then die. When it comes to destruct reproduction, like I said, Pacific salmon, particularly Pacific salmon, because some salmon don't kill off, but Pacific salmon are absolutely the poster child. And like I said, Pacific salmon like Chinook, the Choho, sockeye, and pink, they're what we call called?
I can hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Semmelparus.
Yeah.
Semmelparus. Anyway, the word semmelparus comes from Latin semmel meaning once and pare meaning to give birth. So it literally means
Once
to
and
give
done.
birth once, yeah. In biology, it's used for species that reproduce a single time in their lives and then die. So here's how it goes. They hatch in fresh water, head out to the ocean to grow up, and when it's time to spawn, they take an epic trek back to their home rivers. It's not just exhausting, it's physiologically destructive. Cortisone, the stress hormone, shoots up to extreme levels. That hormone surge of it shuts down the immune system. Their organs begin breaking down, and they stop eating altogether. Every last calorie is funneled into two jobs: swimming upstream and making eggs or sperm. And then once reproduction is complete, they die. But their death isn't wasted. It's essential for the species as a whole. Their carcasses decompose in the stream, releasing nitrogen. Not even talking about the number of fish that go
there's
up
an
and are
amazing documentary I just saw recently specifically on this and how
Yes.
the entire forest ecosystem around these rivers depends on these dead fish.
Yes, absolutely. So their carcasses decompose in the streams, releasing nitrogen, phosphorus, and other nutrients that fertilize the ecosystem. Trees, insects, bears, birds, they all benefit. And most importantly, those nutrients feed the very rivers their little baby fish end up growing up in. Now, like I said, not all salmon do this. Atlantic salmon are weird cousins of the salmon world. They can survive spawning and even come back for around 2, 3 or more sometimes. But for Pacific, I'm going to say specific because my son says it all the time. Even for Pacific salmon, self-destruction is the strategy for the entire ecosystem. The second one to talk about then real quick is explosive reproduction. Now, animals, like I said, we don't get all the dramatic of this. Plants, like Laura talked about, do this too. The example for this one is the annuals. All right, just any annual flower plant. They're the ultimate all-in gamblers of the world. They live fast, grow like crazy, put out flowers and seeds, and then they drop dead. That's
Just their offspring live.
Yep, that's what they do. So the science behind it's pretty cool. Once an annual plant flowers, sets its seeds, and its own hormones trigger the shutdown sequence. The main culprit is actually ethylene gas, a plant hormone that signals the sequence and programmed aging, I guess you could
they use
call
that
it.
to ripen fruit.
I think they do. I think
feel
it
like
does.
That's something
Yeah.
they use on bananas and stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So ethylene production ramps up, chlorophyll breaks down, the leaves yellow, roots decay, and the entire plant basically collapses in on itself. And here's the important part. It's not because the plant failed or got sick. It's deliberate. So every last bit of stored energy from sugars and leaves and starch in the roots is rerouted into seed production. The parent plant sacrifices itself to make sure the next generation gets absolutely everything possible and as much as possible. So normally people see basil and things like that are annuals and people are like, it's dying. It's like, it's supposed to, it's going to it is what it is.
It needs to self-seed, like they say.
Yes. Yep.
You can't cut off the seeds if you want your annual to come back next year.
Yeah, no, exactly. Third example for the reproduction is sacrificial parental care. Now, salmon, yes, definitely dramatic, but spiders, they can liquefy themselves for their kids, which is there's a species.
I know this because I've definitely heard about that. Some animals that let their babies literally eat their bodies, but you're about, boy, man, when you feel like you're, as a mom, your life is just taken over by your kid, at least it's not this far.
Right?
Yeah.
So the stegodiphyus spiders, I think is that the genus? Hold on, let me look here.
It's gotta be, I don't know, but you said it really good. That's how it surely is pronounced.
Yeah, it's a genus. Yeah, the genus of velvet spiders.
Mites and stuff. Do you think? No, that's never something different.
Yeah. So this is a grouping, a genus of velvet. So a bunch of spiders combined there. So after the mother lays her eggs, she doesn't just guard them. She slowly self-destructs. Inside her body, enzymes leak out of little cell structures called lysosomes. These are things like proteases, which chop up proteins, and lipases, which dissolve fat. Together, they basically turn her internal organs into like a soup. And by the time her babies hatch, mom is alive, but she's like
That's horrifying.
a liquid buffet. Yeah. The spiderlings pierce her body.
Alive, but liquid.
Yes. Yeah. She's living, but like barely. The spiderlings pierce her body and drink that soup juice, which sounds so gross and gruesome, but it's incredibly effective because they get that nutrient-rich meal perfectly safe
fresh.
inside the nest instead of having to crawl out into the dangerous world right away. So it works.
Jeez.
And so the last one I'm going to talk about is kind of a more infamous example of a self-destruct reproduction, and it's the praying mantis, right? And so in some species of mantises, and we've talked about this briefly with another episode,
Yeah,
I think.
and we've talked to, I think like it's come up in a really early episode how not all mantises do this.
Yeah, not all mantises, yeah, but some do. The male climbs onto the mate, and the female basically responds by biting his head off. And yes, it sounds like losing his head doesn't stop the mating process, which sounds horrible, but it makes it more effective. And that's because the insect nervous system doesn't work like ours does, like a human's does. A lot of their motor functions are controlled by nerve centers in the abdomen, not the brain. So when the head is removed, inhibitory signals from the brain stop too, and the rest of the male's body just keeps pumping sperm.
Jeez Louise.
But because the head is gone, it does it so with even greater efficiency, which is
That's so messed
funny.
up. That's so messed up.
Yeah. So in other words, decapitation actually boosts his reproductive success, which is insane. So in conclusion, for the reproduction side of it, there's definitely some bizarre systems out there, but the sacrifice of the individual for the benefit of the whole is definitely more of a strategy like we talked about in nature that humans don't do, but a lot of everything else, a lot of other things other than humans do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how to connect and which one I want to do next. So that was for the sake of reproduction. Sometimes things happen that require sacrifice because of outside environmental triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So when bad situations happen, sometimes either the entire organism calls it quits for the betterment of its species, or just bits and pieces of it. So I have a couple of examples here. So this one, though, I did ask. I was like, hey, chatbot, can you help me start finding a couple of sources? And it came up with the best, like, one-liner for this one. It says, when the environment gets tough, nature doesn't panic, it prunes. Thanks, chatbot.
Right.
So what happens? I'm going to do heat and drought, flooding, cold and freezing, and chemicals. So bad situations for organisms.
Yeah.
Heat and drought. So when things get really hot or really dry, some organisms are like, I got to cut my losses here in certain situations because I'm not going to make it if I don't.
Yeah.
This is truly like survival situations. So one way that we're not even thinking about, but is about to start happening more, and in where I live, it's already starting to happen, is dropping leaves.
Yep.
So many plants, all of those deciduous trees and many others, will drop leaves in response to excessive heat or drought, or both. We've had a really dry summer here, and you could tell because the trees were so stressed, they were dropping leaves at the beginning of August.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So like the tulip poplars were like donezo.
Done.
They're doing it in the fall because of changing, and we'll go over that about cold. That happens when things get cold too. But when there's not enough water, they're like, I can't use these leaves.
They're like, I'm done.
They actually lose water through their leaves. That's what's supposed to happen. So as the evaporation from their leaves occur, it's pulling water up through their trunk. So it's just this cycle of water loss. Yeah. And it takes a lot to keep leaves alive. So they just cut them off, which is called abscission. They're like, nope, no more water loss. Chop the leaves off, let them go. And the same thing can happen with plant roots. If they're losing too much water from their roots, they will chop off those pieces. So the pruning.
They're just like, this appendage is ineffective. Yeah. Quick ham.
It's right. Like you get your leg trapped under a rock and you're in the middle of nowhere, you got to chop off your leg. Right. It's that,
Yeah, just no question.
So on the other side of that, we have the cold and freezing. Plants that are adapted to the Arctic sometimes go into a form of stasis and will lose bits and pieces of themselves due to damage like from frost and things. But one of them
It just makes it sound like they go crazy.
Yeah.
They just lose pieces of themselves.
Lost
Listen,
pieces of
sometimes I do too, guys.
Yeah,
Like,
in the dead of winter, you never know.
yeah, right.
But a really extreme example of this with animals is wood frogs and painted turtles.
Oh, yeah.
Wood frogs especially, but painted turtles too,
Yep.
which both have very wide ranges for reptiles and amphibians. So wood frogs can be found in Alaska, and painted turtles can be found up into the northern United States, and I think even southern Canada. And so those are animals that brumate. They're supposed to go to sleep for the winter. But
Yeah, not
normally-
hibernation. Brumate. They brumate. It's a little bit, different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but
Essentially the same.
essentially the same.
Yeah.
So they can essentially freeze though during the winter. Most of the reptiles, amphibians, they're just sleeping in the mud. Like
Sleeping in the mud.
they're
Yeah.
living in the temperature range that wouldn't harm their bodies because they can't
Yes,
stay warm.
yes.
They're cold-blooded. Although most of their cells are protected with antifreeze properties, like these wood frogs and painted turtles, their cells actually have antifreeze stuff inside of them. It does result in some tissue damage, especially the skin or extremities. So they'll wake up and they'll have gotten frostbite and they're like, fine, worth it.
Whatever.
Hashtag worth it. This extreme,
Right?
it's worth it for them in order to be able to live in those places and not have competition. They're like, I didn't need this toe anyway. And some of these animals have like amazing powers of regeneration anyway.
Yeah.
Flooding can cause some animals and plants to cut their losses, usually plants. So they might sacrifice a part to save the whole. If their roots or branches become too waterlogged, they will cut them off to save oxygen and allow oxygen to move more freely throughout the plant.
Yeah.
And then finally, chemicals. If there's chemical exposure in the environment, fish and frogs can just slough, which is such a terrible word. That's such a nasty word.
It is such a
Slough.
horrible word.
They can slough their skin if exposed to toxins. So they're like, I didn't need that anyway. I'll grow some new skin. So they just... So
who needs skin?
Yeah.
Like,
environmental triggers don't usually kill the whole thing, but it does make an organism make hard choices.
yeah. So gross. Alrighty. I'm not going to try to do a transition. I'm talking about population control next. Guys, I'm tired. My brain's tired. So, not all self-destruct systems end in dramatic death scenes. Sometimes a sacrifice happens silently every single day of an animal's life. All right.
That's
so this
so
one I'm gonna
sad too. It sounds like, jeez.
I guess I didn't. I wrote that, but I didn't think about how bad that actually. Yeah,
It's just silent, and every day they die a little inside. Like,
Well, wait until I tell you who it's about. You won't feel so bad because
Okay.
we're gonna be talking about the naked mole rat.
okay,
Yeah, so you're like, So if you've ever seen a naked mole rat, I guess I can describe it.
scrotum for sure.
Yep.
That's the PG. You know?
I wouldn't even say that's the PG version. I asked Luke how to describe it. Like, I showed him a picture when I go, how would you describe this? And he giggled and he said, a hot dog with teeth. And I was like, I think that's worse.
Ew, a really dehydrated hot dog, maybe.
Right?
Ugh.
Yeah, like a hot dog with teeth.
Ew.
So I would say that's a little bit more of the PG-ish version. But if you haven't seen a naked mole rat, I'm so sorry that you're going to have to Google that. They're gross looking. Saying a scrotum is way more accurate than a hot dog with teeth for sure. So these little rodents live in the dry grasslands of East Africa and countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, where digging underground is their survival strategy. They've got wrinkly, nearly hairless. There is some hair. They're gross. They're gross. Tiny eyes that are basically useless, and oversized incisors
Super
that
buck
stick.
teeth.
Yeah, super buck teeth that stick out of their lips that can dig without eating a mouthful of dirt, essentially. They spend their whole lives in elaborate tunnel systems with different quote-unquote rooms for food storage, nesting, and waste.
Did we talk about them when we talked about the superorganisms? Or colonies?
We brought them up before. I
Okay.
don't remember what episode it was in, though.
Either.
Colonies can reach hundreds of individuals, and they are pretty remarkably cooperative. Essentially, the mammal version of ants.
Yeah.
Think of it that way. They're also very tough. Naked mole rats Honestly, they barely feel pain, which is crazy.
Yeah, especially when you're described as nature's scrotum. That doesn't seem like it would
Right?
be that way.
Yeah, you think you'd be a little baby
sensitive,
wimp.
yeah.
They can survive in very low oxygen environments, hence tunnels underground. And they can live for a very long time. They're not like a typical tiny mammal. So anyway, one of the weirdest things about them, though, isn't their wrinkly skin or how long that they live. It's their social structure. Naked mole rats are eusocial, one of only 2 mammal species with an insect-like setup.
Yeah.
There's a single breeding queen, few chosen males, and everyone else gives up reproduction entirely. So here's where the quote-unquote self-destruct comes in, though. The non-breeding females could reproduce. Their bodies are perfectly capable, but they don't. And so the queen's dominance, and again, if we're thinking of like the collective whole,
Yeah.
these don't. So the queen's dominance works on 2 levels, behavioral and chemical. The behavioral suppression, the queen physically reinforces her status by shoving, headbutting, and even dragging subordinates that aren't listening. Right?
She's a tyrant.
Right? The constant harassment triggers stress responses in other females, which elevates cortisol and stress hormones.
Jeez.
Chronic high... I didn't know any of this.
Lovely.
Yeah, right? Chronic
She's a
high
dictator.
cortisol...
She's not a queen.
Yes.
Jeez.
I mean, tomato. Chronic high cortisol suppresses the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the HPG axis, the hormone network that normally drives ovulation. Basically, stress short circuits the brain signals that would tell the ovaries to produce eggs.
Which makes sense. I mean, even for us humans, if you're in high stress situations, you don't have your period.
You're not gonna, not gonna be able to reproduce. The other way, like I said, was chemical suppression. The queen also produces pheromones, which are spread throughout the colony via direct contact and grooming. These pheromones influence the same HPG axis, dampening the release of luteinizing hormone LH and follicle-stimulating hormones FSH from the pituitary gland. Without these 2 hormones, ovarian follicles never mature and ovulation never occurs.
Gotcha.
So they essentially don't lay eggs. So the result
So they've
of all
got
this,
the gear. They just don't do it unless the queen dies, and then something will kick in.
yeah, something else can happen because they're literally being the crap beaten out of them in a high stress environment.
Yeah.
And then her pheromones that she puts off.
Yeah, through grooming each other. So the little bit of tender love and care they get in their lives actually also is birth control. Like,
Yes, right? Right?
Oh, what a
Intentional
society.
birth control. Yep. So they may show ovarian tissue, but it's underdeveloped and inactive. And again, think about it this way. These are normal parts of a female system, and you need those things to work and to function. And when they don't the way that they should, there's repercussions for that, right?
Like hormones.
Yes. And so the reproductive system is essentially on pause, not permanently broken, but silenced as long as that queen is in charge. And here's the kicker. If the queen dies or moves, like we were saying, within weeks, suppressed females can, like, quote unquote, wake up hormonally. Like within weeks, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
That if that happens in weeks, that shows like how much like you have to sustain like the grooming and the behavioral stress. So it almost has to be like a constant ongoing thing.
Yeah.
If it can wake up, if just stopping it for a few weeks can re-wake up the system. So their LH and FSH levels can spike, ovaries kick back online, and one of them will step into the queen role. So the shutdown, like I said, isn't a genetic defect. It's socially enforced, stress and pheromone-driven system that keeps the colony stable. So what does that mean is the mole rats are sacrificing their own genetic feature to keep the colony stable. No power struggles, no resource competition between multiple litters within the colony. Instead, the entire workforce funnels energy into digging tunnels, finding food, and defending that queen's pups for as long as she stands. So it might be a self-destruct on the level of the individual identity, but it's not like a dramatic death, but it's the slow death of those particular individuals for the genetic reproduction and ongoing of one queen.
I wonder if anybody's ever done a study where they put multiple naked mole rat queens together, and then can one suppress, like, once you're a queen, are you always a queen? Or can you be suppressed?
I think it can be. I
feel
think
like
it can be.
too. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody's ever done it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Fight,
making mole
queen
rat,
fight to the death.
right?
Well, transition, not really. So the last one that I have, other than, again, we're all talking about the same thing, which is some sort of self-destruct, is apoptosis, which again, cool word. I feel like that should be an album name or something.
Yeah.
It's also known as programmed cell death. If you Google apoptosis, it's going to come up with a million different things.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a way that, like, genetically, certain cells are programmed to die. So how does this work? This isn't just cells dying uncontrollably, though. So that is not the same thing as something like necrosis or what happens when you get a disease. That is just like your cells get inflamed and they start bursting and it's just chaos. This is like very precise. So it's a series of steps.
A little more elegant way.
Yeah, it's an elegant way of your cells dying on a small scale.
Right.
So it's a series of steps that they undergo to self-destruct. The process is super important to the overall health of an organism. So an organism, like our bodies, are a well-oiled machine. All of the cells are working together to keep us alive. Like, we're not just conscious of that kind of thing happening, but literally all of them have this exact same goal of keep the organism alive. When something goes wrong within certain cells, the body decides to cut its losses and get rid of the problem. Again, unconsciously, which is the craziest thing. And I feel like at some point...
Subconsciously.
Yeah. Well, I feel that, like, you don't know, right? We don't know about plant sentience. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
Do you think that it's a conscious, in very quotes, big quotes,
yes,
conscious choice to cut your losses with your leaves and your roots? But, like, we are not making any judgment calls here with what cells we destroy. Something in us is, but it's not, like, our brains. So it's likely caused, they're still like looking into this because there's a lot of different, what they're calling programmed cell death. It's likely caused by certain proteins being present or absent, which is basically, if you look at all into the human body, it all comes down to what the proteins tell your body to do.
Yes.
There is or there isn't a protein for some command. It's likely signaled from within the cell itself that's having a problem. Anytime I imagine the body or explain the body to my toddler or anything, I'm just immediately thinking like Osmosis Jones level stuff that like there is stuff happening inside of me that I'm just not aware of. So if something goes wrong in the cell, there's a dumpster fire. Some little guy in there like, there's a problem. We need to clean up here.
Yes.
So the cell sends out some kind of signal, they think, and then goes through the series. So the cell starts to shrink and gets little tiny like protrusions off of it, which actually have a name. They're called blebs.
Blebs.
Bleb, which is exactly, you're like, what sound do you think that would make as it goes bleb? Like it's lit. Thank you, scientists. It gets little blebs all over it. And then the DNA, something comes inside and it was like, we don't need this DNA anymore. So let's chop it up into little pieces and then reuse it. And then they're gonna, everything is broken, packaged up. So the blebs eventually are packaged into their own little thing and signal that they are ready for disposal. And
Which is nuts.
It's crazy. Like the actual process is so sophisticated, and it's like
because you got to think of evolution wise. This again, it goes back to the number of steps for this to
one single cell.
Yeah, is crazy.
To do it. Well, and like I am currently struggling to clean my own house. Whereas my body is just doing this all the time. Just clean up an aisle 12 and then they come on in and then then once they send out the signal, macrophages, which is a type of immune cell, come and gobble them up. And then the end, parts are reused. And this causes no inflammation. So that's the difference too between like when something is caused
autoimmune.
Right. This is not an autoimmune problem. Well,
yeah.
This is what's supposed to happen.
Yes, yes.
So if a cell is old, this happens. If a cell is damaged, or sometimes if there's just a surplus of cell. So a really cool example of that is this happens a lot when we're when our embryo is forming. Like you've got like essentially what looks a little paddle at first. We don't have any fingers, right?
Yeah.
But then this happens.
You guys have to watch like
my fans over here.
I mean, you just got paddles.
He's got little paddles in there.
Just in there swimming. Yeah. And then, paddling away.
And then this happens. Apoptosis comes and just pops all the cells in between the fingers and creates fingers. So it's not even that there's a problem always. It's that we have too many of that cell and they're like, oh, well, that needs to be chopped up because we need fingers. Something is telling me we need fingers here.
It doesn't even know. It's like, I have a feeling this needs fingers.
Yeah. Cells with DNA damage that can't be repaired because, again, the body, first of all, the cell tries to fix itself. And then if it can't, it's okay, come clean this up. Cells that sometimes get infected with viruses can be packaged up like this. This is a way for the body to eliminate rogue immune cells that attack the body. So if you do have an autoimmune problem, your body is also trying to get those guys out too. That guy's gone rogue. Get him out of here. And then balance. So your body has to out the old to make way for the new. Otherwise, it would be gross. All the dead cells.
Too many.
Or even if it's not that they're dead, think about when you get sick, okay? Your body creates a ton of immune cells to go battle that problem.
I was just going to say, I wonder if we didn't, from an evolutionary point, like what would happen if it didn't?
I guess, I don't know. Would it actually, like your blood volume increase? Because...
Continue talking. I'm just going to see you looking up.
So when you get sick, you're actually creating new immune cells to go fight that. And your body is all out, man. It's going to send as many as it can. But then once the infection is solved, you still have a lot of extra immune cells in there. They have no job anymore. And so your body's package them and go. Which I wonder if they stuck around, if it would end up causing problems. They would go rogue. You just have more rogue immune cells because they idle hands and all that. They just find something to do. And the whole concept of apoptosis is just so, as Katy said, elegant. Without apoptosis, cancers can develop and autoimmune diseases. Those two things, that's when apoptosis doesn't work. That's what happens. Cancer cells are when things go wrong and they keep multiplying and nothing is making them pop. And then autoimmune diseases are when your rogue immune cells are attacking your own body. So that's when, if it doesn't occur. If too much occurs, which can also happen, so too much apoptosis is also not a good thing. They actually think that it's probably the cause of major problems like muscular dystrophy and Alzheimer's. It's like apoptosis went crazy and is eliminating things it should not be eliminating, which makes sense. So maybe your signals, something is going wrong with your cells, signaling that they need cleaned up and they don't need cleaned up, something. But man, your body and just in general, cells are just their own little world and it knows exactly what it needs to be doing and it's doing it all the time.
Yeah, good grief. So I looked it up and basically they said that if it never had happened, because it is such a way of cleaning up, that we would not have evolved past very simple organisms, essentially.
Makes sense. Because again, right,
this just has to happen.
We wouldn't have junk removal.
This just would never have happened. So, hey, what would happen to a human body if this didn't? We just wouldn't
exist. Cancer, autoimmune, and then never
we couldn't even get to the point of
you wouldn't go
this.
Past embryo stage.
No. All right, so the last one I'm going to talk about is defense. So let's wrap up the tour of self-destruction here with something that is, this one's weird, cool, but also, I don't know, an interesting one. So let's talk about little ants, Colobopsis saudarisi. I don't know. They're ants. They live in the rainforest of Southeast Asia, places like Borneo, Malaysia, and Brunei. They're tiny, just a few millimeters long, and you probably never notice them crawling around, honestly, the understory, because
they're under the
they're
leaves.
just so tiny. Unless you see one when it blows itself up.
What?
So, So whenever we're talking about,
we're going out with a bang.
This is what we're talking, but it's all defensive. So here's the setup of these ants, all right? The naked mole rats run their colonies like insect hives. Exploding ants, they are insect hives, but they've taken the quote-unquote fort of the colony to just a whole other level. Like other ants, they have a queen, workers, and soldiers, but some of the minor workers are a very special caste within the group. They're literally built to sacrifice themselves. The scientific term for what they do is called autothesis, which basically means self-sacrifice by self-rupturing. These ants have massive and large mandibular glands that normally make chemicals for defense with other ant
like
species.
mandibular, like the ones like cheek ones?
Yeah. But in these particular ants, the glands stretch through most of their body cavity. So in most ants, it's just up here. These particular ones through most of their body cavity. And they're like little tubes of toxic glue ready to go off.
Whoa.
Yep. When a predator shows up, let's say a spider, another ant species, or a hungry insect, the worker ant contracts its abdominal muscles so violently that its body walls rip open, the glands burst, and out sprays a sticky toxic secretion. It gums the attacker, sometimes even killing it, but the ant obviously gone. It dies every single time. There's no coming back from this. So the glue, the stickiness stuff, isn't just some random bug slime. It's a highly specialized chemical cocktail. The enlarged glands inside these ants are packed with compounds like phenols, phenol-based aromatics. They are sticky, corrosive, and toxic to other insects. When the ant ruptures, those chemicals come blasting out under pressure, coating anything nearby. The gluey texture literally traps attackers. Legs get stuck, jaws can't open, wings gum together. And the toxicity, it can burn or poison enemies on contact, especially rival ants or spiders, which have like smaller respiratory systems and things like that. From a physiological standpoint, the ants have basically turned their entire body cavity into a pressurized defense system.
It's like a little.
Like I said, their muscles.
I was going to say, this reminds me of, there's a video game called Left 4 Dead with like zombies, infected zombies. And there's ones called bombers, and they run at you and explode and juice goes everywhere.
That's essentially it.
Thing,
yeah.
But for real.
So like I said, their muscles contract so forcefully that the cuticle splits, almost like pulling that pin in the grenade.
Which
and because the glands run,
cuticles are hard. Like
they can be different hardness levels too. You know what I mean?
But still, like an ant. I mean, it's an exoskeleton, so it's not like skin.
Because it needs to be. You've got to think of it though. It needs to be protective for the day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But then also be able to do this too. You know what I mean?
It's got,
it's like a
pre-built-in like breakpoints.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So whenever it runs that whole length of their body, the explosion sprays in multiple directions. So like you said, it is very particular spots. So it's like a sprinkler system of death, though. Evolutionary, this is one of the more extreme examples. Natural selection isn't acting on survival of the individual insect, an ant, like we've talked about, or I've talked about in so many other examples. It's acting in the survival of the colony.
Yeah.
So one exploding worker, when there's thousands of others, leaves zero descendants of their own, but it keeps the population of the entire colony going. So while other examples that we've talked about, like honeybees, they might leave behind the barbed stinger and then they die and stuff like that. Exploding ants, this definitely takes it
level.
Up a whole other level. It's a lot messier. It's violent. And one of the, I would say, cooler examples, whenever we talk about self-destruct, this is it.
Can't think of anything more like explosive. That's so
literally.
Cool.
Yeah. Then exploding. But yeah, guys. So that's a variety of ways that animals, plants, everything, they, like we said, it's self-destruct, but it's a strategy. It's not just either whether it's survival of the species as a whole, and it's not for the individual. Like humans, we're often, I don't know, that's how we think.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's not just, it died, but it wasn't just an accident. It was, it was intentional.
Very intentional. Alrighty, guys. So we have one more short episode next week, and then this season is done. We'll do another mini-sode for the season break like we've done previously, and then it'll be season 13. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 13. All right, guys. Make sure you check us out on social media. Just search Wildly Curious Podcast, and you'll find our snippets and other random little videos. Go support us on Patreon if you can. And until next week.
Bye, everybody.
Till next week.
asking the questions, the weird ones. Why